Today we're going to take a look at Alpha Capital. So Alpha Capital is a platform where there are a group of traders that invest in high-performing crypto portfolios, and the yields from those trades get distributed among all of the holders and all the stakers, so to speak, in the platform. But before we get started, just a quick disclaimer. We are not financial advisors. The content on our website, social media, and YouTube are for educational purposes only. We strongly suggest that you conduct your own research and seek the advice of a licensed financial advisor where necessary. As with all projects, including crypto ones and DeFi, there's no guarantee of success, so please do proceed with caution. All right, so to dig in a little bit deeper, Alpha Capital is a trading firm, and they in essence use quantitative trading algorithms, which we'll talk about a little bit further on in the video, to make highly successful trades. They use a number of market neutral strategies, so things like arbitrage trading and sandwich trades, to really guarantee that they are successful in most of their trades. In addition to their trading, they do automatically hold a portion of their profitable trades as well as deposits into an insurance fund. And their goal is to build up that insurance fund so that it ultimately covers 100% of every user's investment. So this is investments, not users' rewards, but they're looking at kind of creating an insurance fund if things go sideways. And let's take a quick look at their website as well to just see what they're all about as well. So again, they're looking to kind of make crypto easy. You just connect your wallet, deposit into a certain staking fund, depending on what coin you want to stake, and then they take those funds and trade with them. Since their inception, they've had about a 1.17% return, which we'll look at the reports a little bit later. And they have around 1.7 million deposits with a limit of 2 million. So they realize that as you get to larger and larger portfolios, the chance of success is smaller or the returns are smaller because you can't always guarantee returns. So they're limiting the number of deposits, which is definitely a good thing. As I mentioned, they use some kind of state-of-the-art quant trading strategies. They do have some insurance, which they're building up. You can withdraw your rewards at any given time. And really, they're looking for stability in their project. So it kind of feels like a more mature version of Stablefund. Not 100% sure if Stablefund was even trading, to be honest, because they never showed their trades. So Alpha Capital is kind of doing what Stablefund wanted to do, and hopefully they're more successful. But time will tell with those. The rewards are issued daily, so we'll talk about some of the APYs and how that works. All right, so as far as the team, what I could gather is the owner of this business is Konstantin Barbu. He's also known as Trador on uh, Telegram and in the AMAs. That's what his name shows up as. They do have a virtual office, one of those rent an office kind of things, um, in the United Kingdom in London. And they haven't quite gone through any kind of KYC. I have seen on Telegram that they're trying to. They have a whole bunch of discussions with truth seekers. They're even showing their messages with truth seekers directly. So I think they've run into some issues with them with regards to showing, turning on the camera and showing who they are, which could be a potential concern. They claim, I think this is one of their um, traders or one of the project members, so to speak. So again, you could kind of fake some of these videos and some of these pictures, but that's what they're saying. But you can dig around the Telegram comments and kind of make your own assessments. It definitely looks like they are trying to do due diligence with a company like Truth Seekers. So you could take that how you like. They might not meet all their checks, but it definitely seems like they're trying to, as opposed to just not running the KYC at all. All right, so there are a number of things to consider with the tokenomics. So the first, as I mentioned, is there is a max deposit. they're trying to limit the number of, the number of funds in their platform. So they have about 900 BNB as a limit, 1.135 million BUSD, so that's the largest chunk, 350 Matic and 375 USDC. So that max deposit has changed throughout time. So they are slowly, I think, increasing that. Um, but it does allow them to limit the funds and kind of close the door, so to speak, to new investors. So they can just kind of continue with a certain set of funds that they're comfortable with. There is a buy tax. So there's a 5% buy tax when you stake on their platform. And by the looks of the code, which we'll dig into a little bit later, half of that buy tax goes to the treasury. The other half either goes to the treasury or goes to the referral or whoever referred you to the platform. If nobody referred you, then 100% will go to the treasury. They do have an insurance fund, as I mentioned, a wallet for emergencies. So it looks like from their trades, I think around 20 to 30% go to the insurance fund. Also from deposits, half of the buy tax goes to the insurance fund, and they have a little bit of the fund built up. I want to say somewhere around 5% of the total deposits they have covered. Not great. It's not 100% like they would like to, but I think the idea is that they're working up to that and want to get that over time. And assuming that the trades are successful and people don't compound or can't go above these deposits, they could reach that insurance fund. And that's really, if their trades just go completely south, they have this fund where they can kind of liquidate it and give everybody their money back. Kind of like what Stable was trying to do. Again, it's eerily similar. Some of the things with Stable kind of makes me feel like some of them are maybe potentially are working together. Again, that's just speculation, but project seems very, very similar. But maybe it's just a coincidence. They do have a lock period of sorts, so it's 30 days where you put your money in, and it's not officially locked up. You can take it out at any time. But say if you put 100 USDC in there and you've made, I don't know, say 10 USDC in rewards, if you try to withdraw within 30 days, you only get 90 back because you're only getting, up to the deposit you've made. After that 30 days, that's removed, and you can withdraw whatever you want. So your funds are not technically locked, but you can't get any rewards till after 30 days. So your rewards are locked in essence for that amount of time. They do have a variable return based on how they've been trading for that day. And so it kind of gets updated daily. It's averaging 1.17%. It hasn't been negative, which actually is somewhat of a concern to me. I would expect some days even the best traders are going to have a negative return day. But again, it might be related to how they are trading. Sandwich trading by definition can't lose money, and arbitrage usually doesn't lose money. So those are two relatively safe. Perpetuals can, and they do show some negatives on there, but overall for the day, they don't lose money, it seems. So those are their tokenomics. Okay, let's take a look at some of the investments that they're making. Before I give a little bit more detail on that, one thing I've noticed is about 30% of the deposited funds are in trade right now. The rest are sitting in the contract. So while that's not a concern in and of itself, that does mean that they have to make more money, a higher percent, with that 30% in trade if they're going to give 1% to all the stakers. So it just puts a little bit of additional pressure on them. 5% is in insurance. So they're trying to grow that fund. So it's not covering everything, but I'm just going to be aware of that. And as far as the investments themselves, they are investing in futures trading. So if you're not familiar with futures trading, I can have a video on that later. But in essence, they're trading Bitcoin futures, which are kind of like options, where you have the option to buy the security, let's just say, in the future. But there's not a set date. Like with options, there's a days to expiry. With futures trading, there's not. So you can kind of keep that forever or keep it for a short time. And they're just doing swaps on those. Arbitrage trading is when you're basically buying and selling between two different exchanges, and there's a difference in price. So if ETH is selling for, 1,000 on one exchange and 1,000 and $1 on another, you can kind of make up that difference by buying and selling. And then sandwich bots or sandwich trades are in essence when you try to take advantage of slippage. So if somebody wants to buy, say, ETH for 1,000, but they have a slippage variable of 3%, so they're willing to accept, $30 difference, 30 ETH, let's just say difference or whatnot. Then you can kind of go in there and you can buy that ETH before them, and then the way you kind of jump them in line, so to speak, is you have a higher kind of gas fee. And so then you ended up buying ETH right before them, and then their trade jumps up to the value that you or the slippage that they agreed upon, and then they ended up buying it for a higher price, and then you turn around and sell it to them for that price. So you're really in a delta neutral strategy there. Same with arbitrage, that's somewhat delta neutral if they're doing it in the same transaction. Feature trading is not. But you can generally wait for a long time for Bitcoin to increase. So there are relatively safe investment strategies, and we'll look at a couple of those investments now. So if you go to their sites and you go to the very bottom of their site, there's a reports page, and they're trying to output these trading reports pretty frequently. So I don't know, there's no real way to verify the legitimacy of this, right? Because they don't show like transaction IDs and things like that. So you have to kind of take it with a grain of salt here. But they are doing futures trading. They're listing out the times when they bought, like what the open and close price was, what the P&L was. There are some negatives here where they lost money, where they went short or long on it. And they list out those trades there. There's a couple of different ones here. Arbitrage, they're talking about that, how much they've made on those with an arbitrage bot. Sandwich, same type thing. And they show overall what is the percentage of profit for each of these. So they made about 19K in this, what is it, 2-ish week kind of period. And then they split that money between the investor rewards and the payouts. You can also see some of this stuff on their Telegram. So in Telegram, if you look at the pinned messages, let's go to the very bottom here. They do announce pretty regularly when they are withdrawing and depositing into each of the contracts. So you don't have to look at the transactions on BSC scan or wherever the trades are happening, but you can also just check that yourself as well. They're showing some videos of how they've done trades, and they even show here like their order history on Binance, along with them being in Telegram and being logged in and all that. So again, you can definitely fake this stuff, but it seems pretty legitimate, at least on first blush. They do post their trading reports and their profit injections here with links to it. So again, keep up to date on this. This is a good way to make sure that things aren't going south, and just kind of making sure that the trades and everything are legit. And also just take a look out for their reports in the future, just so that you can keep up to date with what's going on. All right, next up, let's take a look at their dApp. So it's dashboard.alphacapital.app. So if you just go to their main site and click go to app, you'll be brought to their application here. On their dashboard, you can see you can deposit in BNB, BUSD, Matic, or USDC. Each of these are on their own separate contract, just FYI. You can stake the amount with how much ever you want to put in there. And then once you do, I've done one here with a small amount. It'll show you the weekly rewards, daily, and hourly. So they are kind of updating the rewards every hour. Down here, they show a little graph of how much each investment is doing and how many days since they've started. You can see their average for 30 days is 1.1%. How much investment is in their platform. how many investors, the rewards, and then their percentages. Like I mentioned, they do have some smaller percentages here. Things have dropped down. I haven't seen any negative ones in here. Just kind of looking at this. Then your own personal kind of transaction history. Like I said, I put a couple small transactions there to test the platform. Then outside of the dashboard, you can go to stake. So it's another way to stake besides on the dashboard. It'll show a little bit more details about your deposits, the total deposit in the platform, and the limit. So again, like once this total deposit gets up to the 1.135 million, they won't accept the USD anymore. So kind of keep an eye on that if you want to get involved in the project. Shows a daily and monthly kind of rewards. You can claim your rewards and then restake the newly claimed rewards as long as the platform hasn't reached this limit. And it shows here again how many unclaimed rewards you have, how much capital is in there, how much you've earned. And then this kind of again, it looks like stable fund, but it shows you the deposits you've made. So I've made two separate ones, and it shows how much time is left. So it's locked up for 31 days. The rewards. I can withdraw this 19 BUSD right now, but I won't get any of the rewards that I've claimed so far. So I think that's what's down here. So something to keep an eye out for. If you really feel uncomfortable, you think that they're going to rug it, there's going to be a problem, you can just quickly withdraw. Otherwise, you can just wait those 30 days and then withdraw whenever you're comfortable. If you do, a referral, like I mentioned, 2.5% of all deposits go to refer. As I mentioned in one of my previous videos on Defiantly, we don't do referrals because to me that feels like you're somewhat shilling a project, and I want to be as objective as possible. But if you're interested, you can feel free to do so. Earnings, this is just like a little earnings calculator. So you can see if I deposited 100 and I have this 1.17 daily return, and I did it for 12 months, I would overall get 5,711 profit. This shows some stats about your own stuff. So I have 33 cents claimable rewards. My capital plus the reward deposit are shown here. My total deposit, my lifetime. And then I just have some FAQ, which I won't go over because this video covers most of this stuff. But that's the overall app. If you want to look at how it's doing, there are a couple things you can take a look at. One thing is they have this operations tab or link, which opens up to here. And if you want to look at the BSC scan, so say if you're doing BUSD or BNB, you click on that. This shows all the transfers in. So for example, BUSD, this one in 375K. And then withdraw to the trading account. So they took out 375K. So you can kind of watch all of the transactions. And within BSC scan, you can set up alerts to get notified of these things. So you can kind of be aware of what's going on in the platform. But it's kind of nice that they have from the app a way to just click in and view that. Same with insurance fund. So that's what this is right here. The insurance fund for BUSD currently has 46,000 BUSD in it. And then also, if you go under stake, you can click view contract here, because like I mentioned, each of these coins is a different contract. So click on this, and you can see that for BUSD, they have 216,000 still in the contract right now. But there was about a little under 1 million deposited. So they had withdrawn the difference between those two. And that's what's kind of currently being traded. That number jumped, I think, just the other day. I think the other day this was like 500,000, I think, when I checked it. So they must have done some recent withdrawals. So yeah, these are 13 hours ago. So again, they just withdrew the 375. So 375 plus the 216 was about 500K, which I saw yesterday. but they since withdrew that. So another good reason why you should set up alerts for any of these uh, transactions and whatnot. All right, well, I think that's it for the dApp. All right, next up, let's take a look at the code of the contracts of the project. So for purposes of this discussion, I'm just looking at the BUSD one, and I found that address again by clicking on View Contract here. As with all these contracts, just it's always good to be aware of what BSD scan provides just out of the box. So if you're not really familiar with code, you can still kind of get familiar with um, some common things looking at the ledger here. So again, the first thing here is how much is in the contract. Keep an eye on this. In essence, 216K is the most that people can withdraw at a given time, right? And actually, there's even more of a withdrawal limit there, which we'll talk about in a second. But just kind of keep an eye on this number. If I were to rug a project, right, I would kind of slowly decrease this, and then all of a sudden people can't withdraw, right? So that might be a concern, like a slow drain they could potentially do. Not saying that's going to happen here, but just things to watch out for. So when you click on Read Contract under this tab here, you can see a bunch of methods that you can call just manually. So for example, the fee is set to 500, which in this case, the denominator is like 10,000, so it's 5%. But if this changes, you can kind of keep an eye out for it. Contract balance, that just is the same number that's up here, so you don't really get much there. The deposit limit, that 1.135, is what shows up over here. So we can manually set that. These other ones you can ignore for now. The pool token just shows what token this contract is for. So this is the BUSD address. Total deposits, that 966K is what is over here. The total deposited. So total rewards paid. I don't know if they show that on this. They might show that on the earnings. No. So that's just total payout. And again, all of these numbers are with 18 decimals, at least for BUSD. So just remember the actual number here is 116,000. So this is how much people have been paid so far on the platform. You can look up your own user deposits here if you're that savvy. You know your address. The referral fee again is 50% of that 5%. Rewards are not paused, so they have the ability to pause a contract, which is a potential red flag there. I think that's it for the things you want to just be able to read quickly. Also, again, you can take a look at events, see when new deposits were made, referrals, rewards, etc. Kind of scan through some of that stuff if you'd like. But without further ado, let's take a look at the code a little bit more. So again, on the contract tab here, go to code. You can grab all this code here. That's what I am looking at over here. It's just a bit easier to look at it with the color coding and whatnot. I'm just going to try to highlight the key points. These things up here are just kind of references it's pulling in for some kind of standard interfaces and whatnot. The real contract for this is this pool. So look for that for the name. Owner storage just has some additional information, like the owner, a trader, returns. You can set the returns and then admin fees. So that's kind of set when the contract first starts up. Pool token is what I mentioned, which what token is staking for this one. They keep a list of referrals. So what referrer address has a referral. No referral, just this address one. The no rewards period, which actually has changed. It's 31 days, I believe. The divisor is just again what the fees look at. So if it was 500 for the fee divided by 10,000, that ends up being 5%, right? So that's how they do that calculation there. Deposit limits, like I mentioned, there's a limit at 1.1 million. How many deposits and rewards are paid? They're keeping track of that just in contract, along with investors. They have a max withdrawal per epoch and a percent, which we'll look at a little bit further. All right, so let's take a look at some of the events. So these are the events that get called whenever things change. So you can subscribe to those if you like. They have some helper functions here if they're an owner, a trader, an announcer, and making sure the rewards are not paused. When the contract first starts up, it just sets this owner storage, so basically the address for traders and the admin fees. Just some kind of read-only information about the pool token, getting your user info, deposits, things like that. This is just some general info about unclaimed rewards and whatnot. Contract balance, it's actually just looking at either the balance of this or the balance of the pool token. But what I want to actually look at in more detail now are deposits and withdrawals. So when you deposit, it's payable, so you can send an amount with it. So this is especially important for BNB. So it checks and makes sure that the contract is live. So there's a start timestamp, which it is live. Checks if the refer is not passed in, so address 0. Otherwise, it sets the refer to be whoever that existing refer is. The pool token, is checking if it doesn't have one versus if it's an existing one. So again, the BNB versus BUSD. Making sure the deposit's greater than 0. Deposit fee is really just the amount times that fee. So 500 divided by 10,000 times the amount you put in, and they get the amount without fee. They check if the deposit limit has been reached, and they throw an error if that is, so that's that 1.1 million. If not, they add that deposit to the list there. They get a unique ID for your deposit, so that's just an incremental number. If the deposit fee is greater than 0, and there was no refer, then it just sends that to the admin, the whole thing. Otherwise, it sends half to the admin, half to the refer. Keep some info about the deposit, so who got the money, who deposited, I should say, when they did it, when they last claimed it, which again, since they deposited, they haven't claimed yet, so this is the current timestamp, the amount they put in, how many rewards, and if it's active. So this deposit information is actually what is showing up down here whenever this loads, right? The number of days, the deposits, things like that. So basically it checks does the user info exist? So they has this person deposited before or not? So in this case, if they have not, then they kind of create a new deposit for them, create all the info, which I just went over a moment ago, and then kind of set that there, and they say the investors plus equals 1, so there's one more investor on the platform. If not, then they basically just create a new deposit for that user and add to it. So the first time you deposit, it goes through this. Second time you deposit goes through this. But it's really just keeping the same info. It's just kind of taking that info and adding it, to your this user info is variable, which keeps track of all your deposits for a given sender, given contract address. Then overall keeps track of the deposit ID here, kind of globally as well. And then that's it. So that's kind of everything that happens for the deposit. Next up, let's take a look at withdrawals. It's very similar, but kind of in reverse. So it grabs the deposit ID. So again, if you want to withdraw here or here, each of these will have its own ID that's passing to the contract. Checks if the deposit is active and the owner is the same. Checks if the timestamp when they deposited plus the rewards period is greater than the current block. So they're within that 31 days, you don't get the rewards. So the spend amount is whatever they deposited minus whatever they claimed so far, and that's how much they can withdraw. If they're past that time, then they get the unclaimed rewards, which we'll look at in a minute. And then that's their claim rewards to whatever they claimed. Right. So in this round, total rewards paid for the whole contract gets updated. The spend amount is how much they deposited plus their claim rewards. Right. So up here, if they're within those 31 days, it's their deposit minus anything they've already claimed. If they're outside it, it's their deposit plus the claimed. So that's one important kind of distinction here. So within each time period, which each epoch, which ends up being a day, they have a limit. So basically, it says take is the deposit amount has to be less than or equal to the max withdrawal, and the max user withdrawal ends up being I think this is in the contract. Let me just double check real quick. So this is the max that you can actually withdraw in a given period. So I did that correct. The max you can withdraw is quite a large number, right? So, but this gives them the ability to control this. So if they want to kind of limit somebody from making this massive withdrawal, they can. So that's kind of one check. And then what's kind of interesting is they have this LTV amount. So they basically take the contract balance, which again is up here, this 216K. And then they multiply it by the max LTV percentage, which is 2. So again, it's 2,000 divided by 10,000. So it's 20%. So 20% of 216. So the most that you can withdraw is 43K, right? And that's comparing the withdrawal in the current epoch plus the amount that someone's withdrawing. So withdrawals in epoch, you can actually look at this thing. Let's see. So how much have been withdrawn so far in this current time period? If you look up here, the current one is 40, right? So you can go down here and you can see, okay, how much has been withdrawn in this 40 period so far? And so it's this amount. Which is 11K. So 11K is less than 43K. So if you do the difference, minus 11, 51, the most would be 32K remaining withdrawal. So you're kind of preventing a bank run, so to speak, where everybody withdraws at a given time. It's not from that, but that's what they're protecting against. And then every time they add that send amount to that variable. And then once the deposit is done, they set active or false. The deposit amount is 0 because you've withdrawn it. They take the pool balance from the contract and they say, hey, if the spend amount is greater than how much the contract has, then reset to being how much I was in the contract. So if somebody's wants to withdraw $100, but there's only $1 left in there, they're setting it to $1. Decrease total deposits because someone's withdrawn. Same with the user's total deposits, they've withdrawn. And so there's some kind of like, accounting info. If their total deposit is 0, then there's one less investor in the system. And that's it. So that's withdrawal. Claim rewards, similar type thing. So we grab the user info. We go through all their deposits. So all of these in this list here. Make sure the deposit's active. If it is, then get their last claimed timestamp, get the deposit amount and the end time. They get the total return for that period. So between the start and the end time, basically from the last time they withdrew to now, get the total percent that they've gained. Again, it's roughly 1% per day for this amount. And they multiply that times their deposit amount, and those are the rewards. Then the user reward amount, we add how much they just took out. Claimed, we add that back. And then the last claim timestamp is the current one. So they try to do this twice in a row. The total returns would return 0 the next time around. Total rewards paid. Again, that gets incremented as well as the user's total claim rewards. They do the same type checks to make sure that the balance is not above the max withdrawal. And then the amount that they send, again, same type thing. Either the amount that they calculated or the pool balance, whichever is smaller. And that's about it. Just some quick, admin things. It's kind of interesting. They have max fee of 10%. Referral fee obviously can't be more than 100%. They can change the deposit limit. They can announce a return, which basically just says what percentage for a given period. So again, I think if you look at the contract here, if I want to say, the current period is 40, I want to see what was the return for 39, the previous one. And you can see it's 1.13. If I go to the app, it probably shows. It's right here, that one. So it kind of keeps track of that info, but they can kind of announce that whenever they get new returns for each period. This they can just fix some broken ones. They can change withdrawal limits, change the reward period, and pause the rewards. So this withdrawal to training, it's only for traders. So they have a separate address if somebody's managing trades. And basically they can withdraw whatever amount they want up to the contract balance. So whoever has those trading addresses, they better trust to make sure. The is trader, by the way, is up here based in owner storage. And owner storage, you actually can't view directly with a contract. So it's a private immutable variable, which is only set on the creation here, and it's not exposed in any other way. So technically, like the only way to see that info is you'd have to look at the creation of this contract, and then you would have to decode the input data here to find out the address of the trader. So that's one way to do it. Another way is you could look at the contract events, and there is a withdrawal. Let's go back from the app here in the operations. This withdrawal to trader. So this is a trading address because it has that permission. And if I go to this address, sorry, did I do the wrong? I think I have to look at the address in here. So sorry, it's not the sender. It's actually this first parameter, which I don't know if this is decoded at the moment. Oh, it is. Okay. So it's this address here, which is actually up here. Who's getting it? Who's calling it? This is the trader address. And it's not a multi-sig. It's just a normal kind of wallet address. And you can see kind of what this specific trading address is and what it's doing. So it's that 8B address. And you can see that's kind of the only trading address here. That's who's doing it. Um, so again, just something you need to look out for and see like when those trades are happening. But besides that, let's double check. Yeah, that's pretty much it for the contract. So pretty straightforward. In essence, they're just using this contract as a container to manage the funds. So allowing people to deposit and withdraw with a certain percentage and then going to a trader. So that's the code. All right, so just my final thoughts. So the major risks with this project, it has a high APY. I know it's variable, but if you think about like getting 1% per day is like an insane return. It seems normal in the crypto space and especially in these kind of degen projects, but just kind of be aware that that either won't continue forever, or it's kind of just a scam. It's just a Ponzi. So time will tell with that. Um, Another risk or a safeguard, depending on how you're looking at it, not all the money is traded at a given time. That's going to slow down the returns, but also makes it safer because if they lose everything they've been trading, well, they still got some additional funds. There's no audit or KYC at the moment. Again, looking on Telegram, there's some you know discussions about an audit, but hasn't been released yet. Safeguards, there is a trading limit, so they're limiting it to that 2 million across all the coins that they're trading. So that kind of makes it a more manageable fund. Like imagine if everybody dumped all their money and they got like 30 million or something. That's a lot harder to trade than 2 million, especially when you're doing arbitrage, you're doing sandwich. You have to be able to find trades. Um, Another good thing is they're showing trading reports and transparency. The more they can do that, the better. It'd be really cool if they could show some live trades down the road. And then finally, the insurance fund is kind of unique. Again, all those safeguards make it feel like it's stable fund version 2. It definitely seems to be a more mature version, kind of learning from some of the mistakes of those other projects. So that's my overall thought, for the risks and safeguards. As with a lot of my videos here, the presentation, the style was done by SlidesGo and by Icon with FreePick. Definitely support those projects. So closing thoughts. Overall, definitely was very skeptical when I saw Alpha Capital. I was like, oh, this is stable fund V2. So it made me a little bit, concerned. I do like that they are doing some additional transparency. I would love to just see on the AMAs when if the owner would just turn on his video, um, and dox himself, like that just creates a lot more stability and trust in a project. I understand why people don't do that, but it just kind of helps overall. I really like that they have the insurance fund, assuming they use it for good purposes. But with all projects, you definitely want to keep an eye on the contract balance. Don't put any money in there that you're not willing to risk. Definitely do your own research. I'm not providing any kind of financial advice, but seems like an interesting project. I'm definitely going to keep an eye on it as it continues.